Richard Lynn Carpenter is an American pop musician, best known as one half of the brother-sister duo The Carpenters, along with his sister Karen Carpenter. He was a record producer, arranger, pianist, keyboardist, occasional lyricist, and composer, as well as joined with Karen on harmony vocals. Childhood: Richard Lynn Carpenter was born to parents Agnes Rhea Tatum and Harold Bertram Carpenter at Grace New Haven Hospital in New Haven, Connecticut, the same hospital where Karen was later born. Carpenter was named after his father's younger brother, Richard Lynn Carpenter. Carpenter and his uncle both married women named Mary. Carpenter frequently played the piano while his younger sister, Karen, played baseball outside. He and Karen also liked to listen to the children's records their father bought for them when they were young. Richard was introduced to Perry Como and Ella Fitzgerald, among many others, and by age 12, he knew he wanted to be in the music industry. The Carpenter family moved from New Haven to Downey, California, in June 1963. They wanted Richard to further his music career, and the family was fed up with the cold New England winters. He studied music at the California State University at Long Beach. There, he met Frank Pooler, a conductor and composer who wrote the lyrics to the Christmas classic Merry Christmas Darling in 1968. Richard also met good friend John Bettis, who co-wrote songs with Richard. The Richard Carpenter Trio and Spectrum. Carpenter created the Richard Carpenter Trio in 1965 with sister Karen and friend Wes Jacobs. Richard played the piano. Karen played the drums, and Wes played the tuba and bass. In 1966, the Richard Carpenter Trio played Ice-T, and the Girl from Ipanema at the Hollywood Bowl Battle of the Bands. They won the competition, and shortly afterward recorded 3 songs at RCA Studios, Every Little Thing, Strangers in the Night, and the Carpenter original, Ice-T. Ice-T is the only recording that was officially released to the public. Around 1967, Richard and Karen joined 4 other student musicians from Long Beach State to form a sextet, Spectrum, consisting of John Bettis, Karen Carpenter, Richard Carpenter, Leslie Johnston, Gary Sims, Danny Woodhams. Although Spectrum played frequently at LA area nightclubs such as Whiskey A Go-Go, they met with an unenthusiastic response. Their broad harmonies and avoidance of rock and roll limited the band's commercial potential. Yet Spectrum was fruitful in another way, providing the raw material of future success. Bettis went on to become a lyricist for Richard's original compositions, and all the other members except Leslie Johnston went on to become members of the Carpenters. Career: Richard and Karen finally signed with A&M Records on April 22, 1969. "Let's hope we have some hits," Herb Alpert told the two. According to Richard, Alpert gave them carte blanche in the recording studios, but after offering, their first album, was released and wasn't a big seller. It was rumored that some of A&M's people were asking Alpert to release the Carpenters, but he believed in their talent and insisted on giving them another chance. Alpert suggested that the Carpenters record a Burt Bacharach and Hal David song called, "They Long to Be Close to You." Though Richard worked up an arrangement, only after Alpert's insistence, his arranging talents clearly shone in the finished product. His arranging and musical talents, as well as Karen's vocals, helped the song climb to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, where it stayed for a month. "They Long to Be Close to You" gained public recognition seemingly overnight. According to Richard, even though the song became popular overnight, the Carpenters themselves did not. Sitting at home one night, Richard was watching TV and saw a commercial for Crocker National Bank. He recognized the voices of Paul Williams and Roger Nichols, 2 A&M songwriters on the song "We've Only Just Begun." Richard made some calls to confirm their involvement, and asked if there were a full version of the song, which Williams affirmed. Carpenter managed to turn the bank commercial jingle into an RIAA-certified gold record. It peaked at #2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and has become a popular wedding song. The song also successfully launched the careers of Nichols and Williams, who went on to write multiple hits for the Carpenters and many other artists. Richard composed many of the Carpenters' hits as well, with John Bettis as lyricist, such as "Goodbye to Love," "Top of the World," 1972. Number 1. Though the Carpenters originally opted to not release this song as a single, a version recorded by Lynn Anderson reached number 2 on the Billboard country charts. Following the success of Anderson's version, the Carpenters decided to release their version as a single, and it reached the Billboard Top 10. Yesterday Once More, Only Yesterday, Quaalude Addiction and Treatment. While Karen was suffering from the anorexia nervosa that would ultimately claim her life in 1983, in the late 1970s Richard suffered from insomnia, panic attacks, depression, and an addiction to Quaaludes. Author James Gavin noted in his New York Times review of Randy L. Schmidt's biography Little Girl Blue, The Life of Karen Carpenter, his mother is said to have given him his first pill, which observation was previously portrayed in the CBS TV documentary, The Karen Carpenter Story, and commented on in several of that made-for-TV movies reviews, which also note Anis had been taking them under prescription and thus thought they were safe. At the time he sought help, Carpenter had a doctor's prescription for Quaaludes as sleep aids, but his use had gotten out of hand. A reviewer of the BBC biopic Only Yesterday, The Carpenters' Story notes, as their fame grew, cracks began to show in their wholesome facade. An insane touring schedule began to take its toll and Richard took refuge in heroic doses of Quaaludes. Meanwhile, Karen started worrying about her weight. The worrying became obsession. The cracks became fault lines. The center could not hold. Dr. Gabby Merkin wrote in The Sad Story of Karen Carpenter, in those years, you could tell that something was wrong because the Carpenters frequently cancelled appearances. She appeared unhealthfully thin, weighing only 90 pounds when she was 25. Richard appeared to be forgetful, and it was later found that he was addicted to Quaaludes. In 1978, the Carpenters stopped touring, and in 1979 Richard went into treatment to cure his dependency on this drug. Nick Delevsky similarly observes in rock obituaries, knocking on heaven's door, constantly on the road since 1970 with their Vegas-style act. Both Karen and Richard Carpenter were in ill health by late 1975. With Karen's weight down to 80 pounds, a tour had to be cancelled. Richard, meanwhile, had become addicted to a prescription drug, Quaalude. By late 1978, Richard was receiving much encouragement from family and friends, to face the music a unregistered trademark. Finally, in January 1979, semi-comatose on Quaaludes, Richard fell down a flight of stairs backstage and finally confronted his addiction. He checked into a 6-week treatment program at the Menninger Clinic in Topeka, Kansas, and licked his habit. For any number of reasons, the first 3 weeks were hell on earth, Richard says, but after that, things really started to change, and of course, all for the better. Still, all of this had been a monumental change for Richard, and he decided it was wise not to delve right back into work, and to pretty much take the rest of 1979 off. All the better to get accustomed to his changed fortunes. Post-Carpenters. On October 12, 1983, 8 months after Karen's death, the Carpenter family celebrated the unveiling of the Carpenters' new star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Richard said in his speech, "This is a sad day, but at the same time a very special and beautiful day to my family and I. My only regret is that Karen is not physically here to share it with us, but I know that she is very much alive in our minds, and in our hearts." On June 26, 1985, he started recording the solo album, Time, and finished it on July 5, 1987. The album features Dusty Springfield singing Something in Your Eyes, Dionne Warwick singing In Love Alone, and a song Richard created, dedicated to Karen, called When Time Was All We Had, which starts off a cappella, but then Richard's piano fades in as well as Herb Alpert's flageolet. Lyrics include, "Our hearts were filled with music and laughter, your voice will be the sweetest sound I'll ever hear, and yet, we knew somehow this song would never end, when time was all we had to spend." In 1996, at the suggestion of music writer Daniel Levitin, Carpenter recorded and released Richard Carpenter, pianist, arranger, composer, conductor, which included reworkings of many Carpenter's favorites, including hits and album tracks, and ends with Karen's theme, which Carpenter composed for the made-for-TV movie, The Karen Carpenter Story. He released the DVDs Gold, Greatest Hits, a repackaging of the VHS cassette tape Yesterday Once More that contains all the videos from Yesterday Once More, and Interpretations, which updates the original VHS cassette tape released in 1995 and includes footage from the Carpenters' 5 TV specials and TV series from 1971–1980. The DVD follows the compilation album of the same name, which had been released earlier the same year, and includes 11 Carpenters tracks never before available on DVD, all of them digitally enhanced and feature remastered in stereo audio. On his 62nd birthday in October 2008, at a luncheon for the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan, Carpenter announced plans for his career comeback, dubbed Richard Carpenter Strikes Back, which included the re-release of a Carpenter's Christmas album and a tribute album featuring cover versions of Carpenter's songs. Documentaries. The 43-minute film Superstar, The Karen Carpenter Story was directed by Todd Haynes and was withdrawn from circulation in 1990, after Haynes lost a copyright infringement lawsuit filed by Karen's brother and musical collaborator, Richard Carpenter. The film's title is derived from the Carpenters' 1971 hit song, Superstar. Over the years, it has developed into a cult film and is included in Entertainment Weekly's 2003 list of top 50 cult movies. Richard helped in the productions of the documentaries Close to You, Remembering the Carpenters and Only Yesterday, The Carpenter Story. Scholarship Talent Show. He funds an annual scholarship talent show for people with artistic abilities that is held at the Thousand Oaks Civic Center. Personal life. In 1984, Carpenter married his first cousin Mary Rudolph. Her brother, Mark Rudolph, was the Carpenters' road manager as well as the radio call-in contestant in the Oldies medley on the album, Now and Then. The couple had been dating since the late 1970s. A young Mary made a cameo appearance in the Carpenters' promotional video for the song I Need to Be in Love. Contrary to popular belief, Rudolph and Carpenter are not biologically related, since Rudolph is adopted. It should be noted that when Karen learned of the relationship, she was completely mortified and shared her feelings with her brother on a number of occasions, leading to a final argument wherein Richard told his sister, "We have had the tests done, there will be no problem if we have children in the future. So let it drop." Richard and Mary have 5 children, Christy Lynn, Tracy Tatum, Mindy Karen, Colin Paul, and Taylor Mary. The children and Richard sometimes perform music together at various Carpenter-related events. The family today resides in Thousand Oaks, California. Discography: The Carpenters. Albums, singles, references. External links: Richard and Karen Carpenter, official site, Richard Carpenter at the Internet Movie Database, Make Your Own Kind of Music, 1971 Summer Television Series, Richard Carpenter at the Internet Movie Database.